I don't agree with traditional category creators, which is that it creates this zero sum game, like a winner takes it all mentality, which I don't think is inherently like societally how you win. It might be individually how you win, but societally, that's not how you win. How you win is by bringing everybody like with you. You don't win by just winning by yourself. And there's a loneliness in winning alone. You don't want to win alone. You want to win with other people. You want to share the win.
Oh, yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. Hey, here we go. We're doing this thing. I'm excited. And I had a little espresso this morning, which is great because I am going to need it to keep up with my guest today. She is like the Flash. She's fast. She gets things done. She builds campaigns. She's amazing. But who is she, Casey? Who is she? Tell us something about her as she blushes right now and is like just hiding on camera. She is a serial entrepreneur, a marketing leader, a thought leader, an advisor to the stars, really an expert in some really fascinating areas: narrative, positioning, movement creation too, which is a topic dear to my heart. Really, this is all that good stuff, all the goodies that are behind the scenes that move mountains, right? So when it's not the flashy stuff, it's that work behind the scenes doing these things. So we're going to learn from her today about that. She's, you name it, she's been building all kinds of revenue streams for startups to enterprise, you name it, in all different shapes and places and sizes and movements, even during multi-million-dollar revenue streams, even in the middle of the pandemic. So there's nothing that she can't do. Co-founder of the Audience House, Karthy Ratnam, welcome to the show.
Hi, Casey. Thank you so much. Thanks for making me sit through that and making me blush through that. Thank you.
I feel like I wanted to make the introduction just a little bit longer, just to make you just stay in that state a little bit longer. Oh man. But hey, you know what? We got to learn some things here. So let me pass you this thing. It's heavy, but I know you're an absolute warrior. So here you go. All right, go ahead.
All right.
You want to grab that? Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Yep. Wow. Am I worthy? Am I worthy? Can I
take Thor's hammer, smash for me some kind of marketing myth, a bogus strategy, a misconception, set the record straight once and for all.
Okay, I've said this before, so I'm going to say it again. The title revenue marketer like really pisses me off. Like it really pisses me off. I'll tell you why.
Isn't revenue the best?
Revenue is the best, but isn't marketing always in charge of revenue? Why do we need a revenue marketer? That means like as opposed to what? Other marketers are not in charge of revenue?
That's a great point. So you're saying like, I mean, I guess if you call a marketer revenue marketer, does that mean there's a not revenue marketer? A non-revenue marketer? Are there?
Which means there must have been non-revenue marketers for us to define a role called revenue marketers, which is the antithesis of what marketing is supposed to be, which is sales at scale.
Why do you suppose people did that? Why do you suppose they added it to that? Is that just to be silly or classic marketing move?
No, I don't think it was a classic marketing move. And Casey, I think you've been in like go-to-market long enough to know, I think that was a real misconception. And I think there still is about marketing, and it's tied to revenue, right? Like it's not, because marketers fundamentally, like we're not good at being friends with the CFO. We need to become good at being friends with the CFO. Sales is traditionally like always good friends with the CFO.
Why is that? Why are sales more buddy with the CFO than marketing?
Because sales is the hero of the story. Sales is the tip of the spear. Sales is essentially the bread and butter of the company. Like without sales, revenue wouldn't exist.
So in that metaphor, what is marketing?
We're sales at scale. Marketing is sales at scale.
So why don't we should be the hero? I mean, sales at scale sounds way better than sales one-to-one.
Well, technically, revenue as a function should be the hero, which includes marketing, right? And sales.
Revenue is the hero.
Marketing plays a big role in that.
How do we get ourselves in these situations to where we have to actually put revenue in our name to remind people what we do?
That's because, and again, Casey, you've been in GTM long enough to know this. Marketing is traditionally not wanted to, or sometimes struggle to carry a bag.
Have some sort of numbers that you're responsible for, or you die, right?
Exactly, which is why sales is buddy buddy with the CFO.
Yeah, or you're fired, which sales always has a bag, and they're the hero, right? Because they have the responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. They have great responsibility, so they get the great power.
Yeah, which is why, like, you'll see marketing teams getting cut in like a crisis, but you won't see sales teams get. I mean, you'll see like all of.
And if you do, rip, you're done, right? Because it's funny. It's like a no brainer. If you cut sales during a downturn, then well, forget about it. But if you cut marketing, people like, well, maybe that'll work, but it really won't.
It won't, and you know this. You and I both know this. Actually, in a downturn, you're supposed to double down on marketing because then you're setting yourself up for success in the upturn.
The downturn, you need to double down.
More marketing. You need more marketing so that you're setting yourself up for success for the upturn, which will come. Downturns don't last more than 8 to 10 months.
Double down on marketing. Get yourself out of the. Pick yourself back up again. Right? Let's go.
Build more brand equity. Build more equity. Build more brand equity during that time, and earn the right to double your pipeline or triple your sales, or however people like to talk about it nowadays, in the upturn.
Well, that kind of brings up a great question then. Almost like that chicken or the egg, what came first? You got a downturn, time to double down on marketing. Are you going brand or are you going demand? Do you do one or the other? Can you get away with one? Do you need both? Where are you at?
So it's really funny. Okay, so there's two schools of thought, and we can talk about both. I'm a little apolitical about most of these things because I take it on a case by case basis. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. If you look at a purist category creator, designer, they will say category before brand. Double down. Category before brand, double down on the problem, right? But if you look at quote unquote a brand marketer, they'd say brand, brand, brand. Truly, to me, it all converges at the same point, which is you're really fundamentally doubling down on evangelizing the problem. The more you evangelize the problem, whether it's category or brand or however you think about it, depending on like the company you work for, whether it's a category building company or like a follower company or like however and whichever way you want to look at it, right? If you continue to evangelize the problem, people will assume you have the solution. So it's not really a brand or demand question. It's more of how much of a person's itch are you scratching? And how much of it do they know that you're scratching?
So if I gave you $10, how much are you putting toward category? How much are you putting toward brand? How much are you putting toward demand?
I'm of the point of view that if you evangelize the problem enough, the demand will follow.
How do you pick the problem? Because it sounds like that's really critical.
The problem is critical. The problem is, for lack of a better word, the hill you would die on, so to speak. That's the one you're doubling down on. And so two things, right? One, it requires vision. It requires you to be able to see something in the market that no one else has seen if you're a category creator. If you're not a category creator, you have to find that white space which nobody else is solving for, which is still a problem. So the problem, the itch you're scratching is the biggest thing that you can define. That's the biggest thought exercise. After that is the ICP.
I would also challenge and I'd say, like, let's talk about a podcasting agency. You're not making podcasts. You're actually solving a bigger problem, right? You're connecting one-on-one with your buyer, or you're getting through the noise. How would you define the biggest itch, right? So if someone's thinking, oh, we've just been, marketing our features, our product features, like, and they're trying to seek that itch. How do you find the biggest thing that you can scratch?
So you should never market the features. right? And you know this, Casey, again, like we're preaching to the choir, which is because it invites a comparison. Then you become an us versus them thing, right? Because then it's like, oh, you have these features, your competitor has these features plus one. Are you able to give me that plus one feature two for the same price? See, now you get in those kind of conversations which you don't want to be in.
I've never heard it put that succinctly. Never market the features because it invites comparison. Duh. But yet we do it all the time. We do it all the time.
We do it all the time, but think about it though. If you give a feature list and say, here are my features, and I'm a buyer, what would I do? If you're a buyer, what would you do?
Compare the damn features like instantly.
Instantly, because you've done your research, because the buyer's informed.
Like I'm probably gonna move banks in a second because I had a conversation with this one bank person and I found out that I could get like 3.5 or I can get a whole bunch more interest than like the 85 cents I'm getting over here. So I was like, damn, we'll move company banks. It'll take a while. I'll have to take it slowly. But then today, before even signing the agreement, I was like, hey, let's go research other interest rates that we can get at other banks. I have zero loyalty. I haven't committed to anyone yet. Now I'm just comparing based on your interest rate because they gave me nothing else to compare, right? Or because they didn't talk about the problem they're solving. They're just talking about this feature. Man.
Wait, but there's a but. I'm going to tell you, okay, you're already a customer. Let's assume you had such a good relationship, one-to-one relationship manager at the bank that has been assigned to you that would solve all of your problems, anticipate your needs, be there for you, a buddy, like a coach. You really feel like you're not alone in the whole banking world, blah, blah, blah. Then no matter how much of comparison and I'd ask you that question. If you were offered the same higher interest rate or whatever, X% more, would you still switch?
It'd have to be a lot more, right? Like, I'd be fine with, like, a 0.5% being different or, give or take a little bit amongst friends. And I got what's interesting is the bank I'm currently at, I have 0 of that. And at this new bank, the guy I was like, "Oh, if I want to deposit international," this was so the details. But anyways, I was like, "Oh, if I want to deposit these checks," she's like, "Hey, no worries. I can bring them to the nearest branch for you as I'm on my way to work. I go right by your office." And I was like, "All right, that's pretty cool."
Yeah. So if you had more of that, what would you compare?
That would be part of the mix, but then I would say, who's the relationship gonna be with and that kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you find that thing that you can't replace, which is like the human in the loop, which then suddenly, even with the comparison, even if it's like a 0.5% extra, it's not worth it because then you can't replace this person who's giving you that service, which is invaluable.
Right.
Right. So that's the but. That's the but in the loop, which is like essentially if I can white glove it for you and make once you signed me, if I can make myself irreplaceable to you from a value perspective, not a feature perspective, but from a value perspective, then that becomes the point of contention, which is why this is true, people rarely change hairstylists. Women will rarely change hairstylists. They will drive half an hour, or they will fly back to their hometowns to get a haircut because they just can't.
Well, that and it's so hard. I mean, all the women in my life, I keep hearing about the terrible experiences with you try a new person and it's terrible. At least with me, I had a terrible experience a couple days ago. You can't tell. And in 6 days, you really can't tell, and I'll get a new one, And so, but yeah, I know that it's the buyer's remorse can be a lot harder. So I could totally see why someone would travel to.
Yeah, so and that's my point, because once you find that fit, right, with that person in the loop, it becomes irreplaceable. You become irreplaceable, which is why companies were not just looking at, oh, new pipe, new pipe, new pipe, new pipe, new pipe. They were like, oh, actually, existing pipe, no churn. How do we do this? How do we keep our existing customers and actually increase our valuation? Because people don't realize before this whole NRR concept came up, the whole point of view that we had of the world was You're only growing if you're adding new logos.
What would you call that term? What are is it NRR?
Yeah, NRR,
What does that stand for?
net retention rate.
How do you calculate that?
So in essence, it's basically the number of customers you're retaining year on year, your percentage of your customers you're retaining year on year, and also factoring in the expansion motion. So it's not just about it's about wallet share of each of the customers. It's not just about market share, it's also about wallet share. So for example, Casey buys from me. Okay. Yeah, great. Customer, great. Casey spending $5 with me. How do I get Casey by the end of the year to spend $10 with me? So I'm expanding the wallet share that I have with Casey. And I need to do that with every customer.
You know what? I'm literally gonna add this in. We aren't tracking that right now. It seems like a no-brainer that we should track this.
Wallet share?
Oh no, I'm sorry. The NRR.
Yeah, you should be tracking it.
Does that live in the marketing space?
So, okay. This is an interesting conversation. Have you heard of the term churn happens at the point of sale?
Oh, is it like just selling bad deals like straight away at the beginning?
And then no matter what you do, they'll churn.
Yeah, I think I had a LinkedIn chit chat with someone even yesterday where they were talking about trying to incentivize AEs on lifetime value, and it's like you can try, but in the end of the day, what they're really good at is just closing deals. So it's challenging.
Yeah, incentivizing AEs on lifetime value is going to be hard. But I'll tell you what, it's something that will need to happen as the sales function evolves. And I'll give you an example why. So in the engineering world, in the software engineering world, developers and QA engineers were always at loggerheads because developers will develop, release it to QA, and QA will be like, this is not good enough, and send that. This used to happening, and they were always at loggerheads. So then somebody smart decided, how do we solve for this, right? And they created DevOps where they paired developers with QA and they would like go through the process together so that when it comes out, it's one thing. It's Casey and Karthy developing and QAing together. So yay, right? Cool. The right hand of sales, championing it through, making sure you see all the bottlenecks, the red tapes, the red flags, all of that stuff, handing it over to CS seamlessly, managing that relationship end to end so that the customer is happy, they're onboarded well, their time to value is faster, they see ROI quicker, everybody's happy, and Bob's your uncle. But we just never managed to really do it in a repeatable, scalable.
Got it.
So you're right in like people saying, oh, AEs should have quotas of like lifetime value. You're also right in saying AEs are really good at closing deals. So how you solve for that is enablement.
Okay. Fair. Good. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I want to circle back to the category design and scratching that itch, the giant problem that you're helping solve. To the marketers listening to this who are going, that sounds fantastic, and they confess that their company has maybe they inherited marketing who basically just was basically product marketing. They were just talking features, and we know where that takes us. What's the first step? How do they shift themselves? How do they start going in the right direction and start moving toward speaking about category and so that everything else can fall behind?
That's actually a really hard thing to do. And I'll tell you why. If you grew up and spent your whole life believing a certain thing is a certain way, it's really hard to unconvince you of that thing. So if you grew up in a marketing world or you came up in the ranks in companies and always believed that the product is the hero, the features, and that's not to say the product has to stay true to the promise of what you're 100%, right? But if you were brought up in a world where you thought it was always an us versus them thing, it's going to be very hard to unlearn that and go into an actually, it's not a comparison thing, it's a choice thing. So it's very hard to do that. It's very, very hard to change that mentality, which is why most, I think now it's a little bit more mainstream, like category creation as a skill. Most marketers would not create a category. And even category designers would tell you, they'd strongly advise you not to.
Why? Just because it's hard?
It's hard in the sense that, yes, it's hard in terms of like how long it takes you to get there and convince the market of this new thing and new reality and all of that stuff, new language, new taxonomy, new way of seeing the world, right? So it's a new way of seeing the world. Think like taxis versus hailing a taxi off the street versus switching to an Uber. It's a new reality. Everybody shift to a new reality of doing things. There was new wording and languaging around it. So yes, so that's hard on one hand. Two, it's also because it takes a specific type of leader. Let's say the marketer is the best category designer in the world. If they're not paired with the right CEO, right founder, it's still gonna tank. It takes a very specific type of founder to be able to go the distance in that.
Can they change? Or are they doomed? Can you like meet a CEO and be like, yeah, no, it's not happening.
I find sometimes if you're a first time founder, you're like, it's not going to happen. But like 5 years down the line, you have the scar tissue, etc., and you're a second time founder. And now you kind of have the resilience and the grit to actually challenge the market and wanting to build something new. Sometimes. Right. So it all depends on your growth journey and all of that stuff. But scar tissue definitely helps.
That actually sounds kind of accurate because when I think about my last company, I was much more in that. Wasn't my first company per se, but my first real go at it, and we were very, and we were strategic, but we were comparing things left and right, and when you bought from us, you decided if you wanted 3 landing pages or 4. It wasn't it, yeah, I remember the first time someone asked, "Why should I work with you guys?" And I was like, "What? What are you talking about? Don't you know who we are?" And I just wasn't prepared to answer that question. But I think, nowadays coming at it, doing Ringmaster one, I feel like I'm in a different place where it's almost like in the scar tissue is an impatience to do things the old way. Like I just don't want to do the old BS. I can't do it.
Why did you call it connect to market?
Connect to market. You know what? It was all of the BS, all of the traditional marketing, playing all the games and blah, 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 spending all the money to maybe talk to someone if you could trick them to be on the phone and they didn't want to. And I saw aggressive salespeople just like badgering prospects into buying. And I was just like, ugh. And then when I experienced some sales happened off of a podcast conversation, I was like, oh damn, this is how it should be. We should just do business with friends like it was in the old days, before we got too, high and mighty with our technology and we just put all that stuff between us and. So connect is like I love the connection more than anything. It's kind of like how you said, scratch the itch, create the category, and then everything else will fall in behind. My thought is like, if I can go connection, then maybe everything else will follow in behind too, and in a way. So,
Oh, 100%, which is why your bank thing, that example was about connection. Once you connect with and you have this one-to-one relationship manager, it becomes hard to replace that connection elsewhere.
yeah, 100%. And I have 0 of that with the current place.
So what we really need to do is relationship management. That's the missing piece.
I once interviewed, I think it was on this podcast, but it was like years ago, someone who was doing some marketing for a bank in Florida. And like you said, like you just described, actually, we'll have to go find that episode. Like the president of the bank was on board and the marketing was like, just call us or something like that. But they actually wanted to be on the phone and they incentivized everyone like, it's cool. Like, no, actually give us a call. Like, we actually want to talk to you. We want to actually help you out. And so they made a whole thing about like making it fun to come into a branch or making it fun to have a phone call. And and everyone wanted to talk to you versus other places where like you're not gonna get to a person. And if you do, they're like they hate their job, and yeah, so especially when things are commoditized, I totally get that.
Yeah. So that's why like I think you have a winner with connect to market because it's you're trying to replicate one-to-one connection at scale is really what you're doing. Right. Right. How do you replicate that? Which is interesting because if you look at the history of sales, like going back to like we're going way back, like history, because I always like to go back in history and in time, which is an important thing for category creation and designers to do, which is it's really important to understand where it came from and where the disconnect happened so that you can now frame the new reality, right? So, like, if you go back to like open spaces, community, bartering, you give me a fish, I'll give you I don't know, something I stitched off like a bear coat, I guess, almost. I don't know. Yeah, whatever people used to do. But do you know what I mean? Like, I'll give you this and, so it was one to one. And then community like marketplaces, it was one to one. People were like doing, and then like I remember recently a client of mine actually um reminded me and jogged my mind about this. The door to door salesman back in the back in the day. Like how good did they have to be at creating a connection that within 10 to 20 seconds they had to convince somebody to let them into their house.
I know to like vacuum the floor or something. I mean, that's insane thinking about that nowadays. Um, Unbelievable. But I want to ask you some other questions, but I have to circle back around to this. It's hard. You got to make sure the CEOs aligned up with you. But like, what is the first step if you are jaded and scarred and you do have the alignment with the leadership and you want to go in the direction of category? What do you do?
Well, one, agreeing that you're in it for the long. You agree, and I think Jeff Bezos said this really well. And I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit because I can't remember the exact words he used. Basically, you agree on a North Star. You're very bullish about your North Star, but you're flexible about how you get there.
Wow. You talk in sound bites sometimes. It's kind of impressive. Bullish on your North Star, but you're flexible in how you get there. Damn. Have you said that before? Because that you should say that more. You should put that on your website. How you get there. That's badass. Well, how you get there is you work with you, and you're gonna coach them through it. You're gonna help them make it happen.
Not necessarily me, but somebody who fits. Like it also has to be a value fit, right? It has to be a value alignment for people, right? And it's very important because people get so hung up on the path, they forget it's actually not about the path. It's about your vision. Your vision is the most important thing. How you get there is, as long as like you're not doing something unethical.
Man, I feel like each and every one of these spin-off topics, we're gonna have you come back and talk about each and every one of these different topics, like the vision and all that. But my next question is like, where do you like to learn? You obviously know a lot. You're very smart. You have learned so much. But where do you get what is your input source?
So I'm going to say something really, which I think you love because of your background, Casey. I think all marketers, regardless of what their religious beliefs are and where they come from, or like should read all kinds of religious scripture. Because and I apologize in advance. This isn't a knock on any religion or anything like that. This is a pure marketing conversation, right? Religions are really good at defining, and there's a book about this called Homo sapiens, imagined realities, which is in that they can help create a new world which you believe in and buy into so much that you live your life according to those value systems, whatever systems. And again, I'd like to preface like this isn't a judgment about any of that stuff. It's more about what can marketers learn from scripture.
Sure. You're saying like there's something there, and to recognize that these are texts that have inspired people to do all sorts of things.
All sorts of things. And that's what marketers need to understand, which is that language has power. Like, if you talk to a Christian or a Catholic, the word salvation has so much power. And that's, again, regardless of religious belief, that's by design. It's supposed to have that much of power.
Fascinating answer. I don't think I've, in 400 episodes, I don't think I've ever had that answer, but it's so true that when you see, it's like when we see terrible marketing, it's fun to make fun of it. But when you see good marketing, sometimes I'll buy just because I respect the marketing. I'm like, okay, I appreciate it. That was a good landing page. Hey, above the fold, great job. But, like just, hey, if these kind of texts have inspired people, what is it about? Is the authenticity, painting a picture of the future better time or place or what, like, there's different parts to it that can that you can all, break down into, sort of emulate.
Exactly, right? So that's one part of it. So I think all marketers, regardless, should read scripture, learn from scripture, and understand the precision behind it. How precise they were in picking certain words to mean certain things in this new world they were creating.
You know what I think is really important to say too? We're not saying go look at the cults, right? We're saying, and because what I think I see a lot of is the undercurrent of like truth is most important. So we're not saying, hey, you make some clever marketing to trick people. We're saying, you know, a lot of these religions are saying like, this is what we believe is true. There's authenticity, right? That I think is an undercurrent there, which has to then carry over into your marketing. If you are truly trying to help your customers out, then that feeling and that desire to help them can carry through. But you need the authenticity.
Yeah, 100%. So let's find a little bit more, like, let's break that down a little bit more. And again, this is a pure marketing conversation, right? It's supposed to like be we're not trying to bring any religion down, right? But I know, for example, Casey, if I'm allowed to say, you are a practicing Christian, right? If I'm not, and you publicly okay with saying that, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
So let's take that as an example, right? So redemption for you as a word holds a heavy meaning.
Yeah, I know about that particular word, but even the concept. Yeah. Yeah, oh, for sure. There's different words, love,
Yeah. Faith has a different meaning for you.
faith. Faith is like a very, very simple couple letters, but like a huge word, right?
Take another word, grace.
Yeah, and what's interesting is it's not like a standard marketing keyword where you're like, come to church, Thursday at 4 p.m. because of this keyword and that keyword. It's like just a couple words can just mean way more. So it's almost like using less. It's the simplicity of the words versus the complexity of them. It's interesting.
So the feeling of the word that it invokes is the reason why more marketers should read scripture, so they understand the power behind those words and the feeling it invokes en masse. It's not like one person, two people. It's billions of people who understand what faith means and share a feeling. Think about that. Billions of people, regardless of race, color, identity, background, history, where they're from, how much money they earn, that universal feeling. How were we able to create that?
And what's cool, and hey, get yourself a little scripture, get a little reading, maybe get some religion out of it. Hey, get a little spirituality. Win-win. Let's go.
Yeah, you just have to approach it with an open mind.
Well, this just has me thinking, like, Karthi, who the heck are you? Who are you? Take me back in time. Little Karthi days, did you know that you would grow up to lead all these companies into creating giant funnels and categories and move mountains? Take me back in time. What was it like being you growing up?
I don't know if I'm moving mountains or anything like that. I'll take you back in time in terms of telling you a few things that make me who I am, which actually answers another question that you asked previously. One, I'm an only child who was never, like, my parents never taught me fear. If fear is something taught, it's not something you learn fear. And usually you learn it at a young age. I was never taught fear, so I didn't learn fear. One. And because I was an only child and because of the way I was brought up, I was also never taught to compete, which goes back to the point about comparison. So I was never taught to compete. I was just always taught to be my own person and find my own way.
Interesting. Why do you suppose that was?
Well, I think because one, I think I had really good parents. And two, they were like, they didn't believe like I wasn't inherently good at competition anyway. Like, and I think my parents recognized that I wasn't good at competing. And generally, with the like, parents don't. Maybe I don't know. This is a hot topic, so I don't want to go into it. But usually, when you have siblings, it automatically creates a sense of competition. Being an only child meant you didn't. I didn't have to compete for attention. I didn't have to compete for things and all of that stuff, which naturally translated into my life. And I spend my life not competing. Like I don't compete like at all. Like I don't do competitive sports. Like I'm like more power. Like you want this? This is yours. Like more power to you. See you later. Bye. I don't compete. Like I suck at competing. I don't like. It's funny because like when I was working at teaching partners with Ingram, he used to make fun of me because I used to go for Pilates all the time. And I would never go for a group class. I'd always go for a one-to-one session.
You don't want to see everyone else trying to do a better job of the exercise?
No, it's just also because I'm just naturally like I think if you're inherently like good at like getting like getting off the energy of others and all of that stuff, then you'd be good in a group setting. I'm just not. I'm like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm just gonna go home. So I'm better in a one-to-one setting. That mindset helps you to see the world differently. I'm not saying it's a good mindset. I'm just saying it helps you see the world differently.
So, and it makes me wonder though, because I feel like I guess with category, you're not competing either. You're right. You're creating something new, and you. So, so it's interesting that even from the earliest age, you're following suit on that. So no competitive sports or games. Where did you spend your time as a youngster?
No, I mean I did do like swimming and stuff like that, but not. I hated competing. Like I don't like to compete.
What is it about that you don't like?
So here's where maybe I don't agree with traditional category creators, which is that it creates this zero sum game, like a winner takes it all mentality, which I don't think is inherently like societally how you win. It might be individually how you win, but societally, that's not how you win. How you win is by bringing everybody like with you. You don't win by just winning by yourself. And there's a loneliness in winning alone. You don't want to win alone. You want to win with other people. You want to share the win. The whole point of winning is to share it. Like, what's the point of winning alone?
Well, yeah, I mean, in my mind, I did a lot of team sports, so I like winning with other people, right? I never did the competitions where it was like, "You all stink," and just me, just I'm good, you know? Um, unless it's Fortnite, in which case, y'all stink, I beat y'all, you're dead.
You want them, absolutely. I got you.
But I will say it's much more fun if I'm playing Fortnite with my son and the 2 of us together beat all the other teams. Even more powerful, you know?
It's different, you know. It's a sense of community. It's a sense of belonging. It's a sense of you because you're not. See, to you, it's not winning with your son. It's you spending quality time and creating memories with your son. That's why that's valuable because you're creating moments and memories. Because from 10 years from now, you look back and be like, hey, remember how we whooped those guys at Fortnite when you and I were. And the feeling that it invokes, Casey, going back to it, it's all about the feeling that it invokes when you think back on it.
It's so cool just seeing the whole pattern and the story of your life and then now something you've learned and it's been a part of you so deep and inherently, you're able to then translate that into success for companies to follow the same path and not it really I mean and not compete and you're perfectly suited to help people understand to not compete because that comparison is a lose-lose.
You have to be a little bit, for lack of a better word, naive to think that you can change the world.
So creating a movement, right? oh yeah, we're gonna create this thing is gonna change everything. Yeah, really?
Like you have to be naive enough to believe in a different like future.
And not overthink it too much.
You kind of always have to be an eternal optimist.
Are you an eternal optimist?
I am 100% like an eternal optimist. I think everything works out in the end.
Me too. People do that whole is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? I always described it by saying, I don't know, but there's a pitcher of water right next to it. I'm just gonna fill her up.
Just pulling it up. Exactly.
I have a hypothetical question for you next. Okay. All right, here we go. You get ready. Okay. See, I may or may not have a time machine here in New Hampshire.
Okay. If you have a time machine, you are my new best friend.
Okay. Well, hello, bestie. So it's in the backyard, covered in a tarp. Okay. So come do an event, do a little Boston trip, drive up north, use a time machine, right? But it's a particular kind of time machine where you go back in time and you get to meet yourself, like early 20s, school's all done, right? And it's like you get to go meet that version of you. You just got that IT degree from Trinity, right? 4 days ago. You get to go visit that you. What do you tell yourself? You get to have a conversation. What do you say to yourself?
Always be kind because kindness is the most important thing in the world. It's funny because the reason I'm saying this is because I feel like there were situations in my life where I wasn't always kind, where I should have been kinder. Purely because I thought I was caught in the corporate machine, so to speak, where the ends justify the means. So if I could tell a younger me anything, I would say the ends rarely justify the means. Kindness is the most important thing in the world. That's the only thing that matters.
Powerful. Great way to end the show. Where can people connect with you if they want to work with you, talk to you, connect with you?
Well, obviously, audiencehouse.com or like LinkedIn. People can connect with me on LinkedIn, or they can hit up Casey, my new best friend, who has a time machine in his backyard. Apparently,
The squirrels have, hidden their little acorns in there, but we can brush those off. All right, so we will link to all of those things in the show notes, so people can come say hi. Don't be a weirdo. If you're gonna say hi, tell them you heard the podcast, and it was great. Great, thank you so much for coming on here. Looking at my notes here, like there were just so many great conversations. We really level set it on revenue and why are we calling ourselves revenue marketers? The chicken and the egg, was it brand? Is this? Is it that? And just really shifting to, hey, category and not comparison. What a great takeaway. You're just inviting the comparison. We talk about features. So there was so many good nuggets in this. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here.
it's a pleasure. Thank you, Casey, as always.
For those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, running out of space, writing sideways, then share this episode with like 1 person, 9 people, 3,224, whatever the number is. But like, get good information in other people's hands. That's thought leadership. Who needs to hear it, right? Next time you bump into a revenue marketer, be like, bro, I got an episode for you to listen to. Or someone's competing, right? Next time you one of your friends, fellow marketers, is just talking features left and right, slap them around, metaphorically speaking, and give them this episode. Let's go. Let's fix marketing. Let's have that eternal optimism. And with that, Karthy, thank you again for coming on here.
Thanks, Casey. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool, very exciting episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.